His music sounds American. He has his own original voice. He bucked the trend where melody was out. He stuck true to his credo and created an impressive body of work in every form: opera, chamber music, symphony, art songs, music for band. It's really one of the great American musical success stories.
My life has been blessed with more of these things that just happened at the right moment.
He came up in an era where composers had really begun to embrace their Americanness and celebrate their Americanness.
But World War II, I was sent to Fort Riley, Kansas for my basic training. Then I found that I had met 3 other composers and 3 writers, and the commandant wanted to meet with a group of us. And he said, "Do you suppose you fellows could write an all-soldier musical?" Well, the silliest question we ever heard. So they had a 56-piece swing band, because that's what they like to dance to. It was my whole experience in jazz, because at that time, Eastman and Juilliard, neither of them did anything with jazz.
And the moment they heard that the war was over, of course, he was so happy because they were scheduled to go to Japan. So this feeling became music, the Jubilation Overture.
He taught at Columbia and Juilliard and was the head of Galaxy Music Publishers here in New York. And he was a very active and respected composer. By the time he got around to writing his first opera, which was an opera called He Who Gets Slapped, and it made quite a success.
There was a tremendous amount of anticipation for it because it seemed like a very bold move. Because you have to realize that American opera as such was very, very recently on the scene.
That was such a wonderful feeling at the New York City Opera at that time. So one of the singers said to me, "Well, I'll tell you what will make the greatest American opera of all."
It was 1959, and a remounting of Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible, was being done off-Broadway.
I was never so moved in a play in my life.
Robert Ward was a very socially and politically concerned composer. The Crucible seemed a perfect vehicle, a fictional play spinning off the true Salem witch trials as an allegory to the McCarthy era.
I was going to get that.
I think that he may have been very partial to Elizabeth Proctor because she has some of the best music in the opera. There's a very pastoral feeling, and it's this beautiful kind of Americana.
Robert Ward has really understood the cadences of Arthur Miller's speech.
I will be your only wife or no wife at all. I mean, that's powerful stuff. And I found myself at the end of the aria literally shaking, her containing the emotion and yet letting the emotion go. It was exhilarating.
That rugged-sounding American language gets transferred to the music.
It manages to heighten the drama of the play, as music certainly should in opera, without distorting the play at all.
The minute he rips the paper up and that music starts, I just would lose it every time. It's incredible writing.
I'm sure right now somewhere in the world, someone is performing or rehearsing or listening to The Crucible. Considering the amount of operas that Americans have written, it's a miracle. And if you're lucky as a composer, you get a signature piece. And as Bob will tell you, he's written some operas that are at least as good and he thinks better than The Crucible. Abelard and Heloise is a very striking work.
It was great success in Charlotte. The board was sure it'd be a financial disaster, that nobody would come, because it was new. They asked me if the opera was going to be any good. I actually called up Bob and said, I want a yes or no answer. Is the opera going to be good? And he said, yes. And I went to the board. I still can't believe I did this. And I said, I talked to the composer, and the opera's going to be good.
In the 1960s, he was lured south and became the chancellor and then a professor at the North Carolina School of the Arts.
A search committee went through the best composers in the world, interviewed every one of them, took quite a while, And it was real consensus. The only person on there who could do that job is Bob Ward. And there was no question. Bob Ward could talk to anybody.
He never talked down to the student. He challenges them tremendously, but in a way that they can actually really excel.
For a teacher to treat a student just like an equal, students really respond to that.
If we hadn't gotten the right man, who knows what would have happened. He put the school, its permanent track, with all of its ideals intact. He pushed it ahead.
He is engaged with heart, whether it has to do with the school, whether it has to do with the university program, whether it has to do with building an arts council. He just embraces the community.
If you win the Pulitzer Prize, I think you have a right to have some airs, but that's not Bob's style.
He will give someone who is a secretary as much attention as he will to the chairman of the board. That's Robert.
I don't know whether he would call himself a populist, but that's a noble ambition. It's something that is really sophisticated, but the amateurs and the civilians will love it too. And that gift, the common touch, to reach both sides, is a very special gift.